Welcome to Twisted Liquid RC Boats. Today's episode of Twisted Liquid RC Boats is proudly brought to you by Slycat Racing. For all your RC boat needs, slycatracing.com.
Down and out, and you feel real hurt. Come on over to the place where I work. Loneliness, I try to soothe. I'll play the blues for you. Don't be afraid. Come on in. You might run across some of your old friends.
Good morning, guys. We're starting this episode out in the truck with one hand on a steering wheel, one hand on a gear stick. We're listening to a bit of Gary Moore, and we were working. Now it's a beautiful Sunday morning where I live. We got one hand on a piece of brass tubing, one hand on a torch, and we're getting ready to go to work. I wanted to introduce you guys to Mr. Gary Moore. He's one of the best guitar players ever to walk the face of this earth. But unfortunately, he left this earth too soon, just like Stevie Ray. And I can only imagine the music he would have made in the last 20 years. But anyways, I guess that's life. So having said that little thing, we might as well get to work. In this episode, we're going to cover doing our stuffing box installation, which is going to be a review style video. And then we're actually going to do some work on camera, and we're going to cover our stuffing tube installation. Now guys, I have to anneal and bend this tube today, and I'm going to do it in front of your face. And I'm going to use some very simple tools and my hands to do it. And we're going to get a drive line in this boat. Before you do a stuffing tube, you have to do your stuffing box, which I'm going to show you how I lined in the boat. But when you do go to do your stuffing tube, I'm going to make a simple suggestion. Have your engine and have your strut mounted in your boat. Have it done exactly where you want it to sit and where it's going to be for perfect alignment. Get your stuffing box in. You then have 2 points which you have to go between with this length of tubing. And you've got one shot at bending it, and you've got to get it right. So, if you have the 2 points determined, meaning your collet location and meaning your strut location, you can actually make it. But until you have either one of these done, in my opinion, I wouldn't bend the stuffing tube at all. Wait till you have these 2 locations determined, and then take the tube and bring it between them. Now we're going to have to shorten our drive cable. We're going to have to put a notch in our drive cable for our drive dog to sit against, the grub screw. And we're going to get a drive line lined up in this boat. So hang on, guys, because every little step you do and every little movement you make ahead, doing work on your project, or work to get your project is one less step you gotta do. RDMRC, can't thank you enough for your channel support. Here at Twisted Liquid RC Boats, all you're gonna hear is and see is 2 thumbs up, sir. That's all I can say. Subscribe to your channel. I hope you have yourself a good day. Take care of yourself. Let's get to work, guys. Okay, guys, the first thing we're going to discuss in this episode today is installing your stuffing box. Now, once I had my engine positioned in my hull exactly where I wanted it, using the gizmo mounts and having it aligned with my stuffing box stuffing tube support in the hull, I knew I could get my stuffing box put in by just simply aligning it down through the bottom of the hull using a couple simple items. You have to purchase an 11/32 piece of tube for this boat, approximately a foot long, and then you have to buy a 5/16 piece of tube, approximately 36 inches long, for your stuffing tube itself. The 11/32 tube is your stuffing box. To get the alignment on it, I merely took my collet and I put a 1/4 wooden dowel into it. I slid a 5/16 tube over that. I took the 5/16 tube and I fitted over an 11/32 tube. And I got it all sitting through the hole in the support against the bottom of the hull right here. Now guys, I only used short pieces, essentially as a little alignment tool, and all I wanted to get was an exact location to drill my holes through the bottom of my boat to get my stuffing box in. After I had 4 holes drilled straight down through the boat, I took a round file and I angled it and I filed a nice tapered hole for the stuffing box to come up through and align with the support wood perfectly. Once I had it in alignment, I kept my 5/16 tubing and my 1/4 dowel in the engine. I merely slid a piece of tube up through like you see. And I had the dowel, the 5/16 tube, the 11/32 tube all sitting through the hull in a perfect alignment where I wanted it to. Once I had the tube sitting perfectly, I tacked it in with CA glue, guys. Just some simple tacks to hold it in the exact position where I had it to. And it's approximately sitting through the bottom of the boat, about maybe a 1/2 inch out on the bottom, the 3/4 of an inch. Once the CA glue was holding it in place, I flipped the boat over and I merely used masking tape. And I taped up all around the bottom of the tube where it exits through the bottom of the hull. This is to prevent any epoxy from oozing out down through the bottom. After I had it taped up, I mixed up a batch of West Systems G-Flex and I applied it around the hole, filling in all the voids and pushing the epoxy down against the tape so it took up all the voids around the holes I drilled in the hull. I let it cure. After I had that done, they tell you in the manual to chop up some fiberglass cloth into little pieces with scissors, mix it in with some epoxy, and build a base up around this for extra strength. I done it an alternative way. I took 1 piece of fiberglass cloth, cut it to a decent size to fit inside of here. I mixed up a batch of 105-207 epoxy from West Systems. I coated the area. I laid the cloth down over the epoxy work I already had done, holding it to the hull. I smoothed everything out. I let it cure. When I had that done, I mixed up a very tiny batch of West Systems G-Flex. And I filled the tiny void with a little bit of G-Flex and colloidal silica mixed together underneath the tube right here. Now the cloth was already down over it, so all I done was push it in underneath. It filled the void under the tube, and it stiffened everything up drastically. Once I had that step done, I flipped the boat over again, removed the tape I had there, and I mixed up another very small batch of West Systems, and I done around the stuffing tube where it exits the bottom of the boat and smoothed it out, which I will show you in a picture. Now guys, it took 4 epoxy mixes to get that stuffing box sitting there like it is right now. I done each one and I let them cure in between their times of intervals of doing it. I was in no rush again. I have a perfect alignment for putting my stuffing tube up through my stuffing box and into my boat. And I'm quickly going to take the 36-inch length of tube I got here to cut and make the stuffing tube with. And before we do this, I'm going to slide it in through a couple times. And I'm going to show you the alignment. I'm going to spin it. And I'm going to let you know that a cable is going to run through that tube very, very, very well, because the alignment is dead on. Now this takes a little bit of patience, like I say, and it takes a little bit of time. And that way that I done it is a little different than the manual. But the reason I done it this way with just a piece of cloth is I have 8 fiberglass boats here. And when I look at every stuffing tube in them, they are done exactly like this. They are done with an epoxy mix, holding the tube into the boat, a piece of cloth draped over it and saturated into that. The void underneath is filled with epoxy and colloidal silica to take any void up and strengthen the tube sitting against the bottom of the hull. And if you look on the bottom, the epoxy is smoothed out on the other side. So I've tried it in this way right now in this hull, and I'm willing to bet money that that stuffing box is not going to move in this boat. The only other additional work I got to do is I have to drill 2 holes in it. I have to put 1 hole down through my stuffing tube clamp nipple right here, just for lubrication if I do want to use it. And I'm going to drill an additional hole right here, because when you slide the 5/16 tube up for the final time through that, we're going to solder the 2 tubes together. We're merely going to take a soldering gun, clean the brass really well, a little bit of flux to clean the surface well, and we'll apply a dab of solder which will hold the 2 tubes together in the hull. Now guys, that's the way I done my stuffing box install. Let's reposition the camera, fire up the torch, let's anneal the stuffing tube to soften it to make it easier to bend. And I'm going to show you a couple simple fixtures I have here, which I bend stuffing tubes against. And then we're going to cut and align a stuffing tube, put it in the boat, and then we'll work on the drive cable. Okay guys, we're ready to anneal and bend our stuffing tube. Before you do, slide it all the way up through your stuffing box in your hull. Make sure that it goes all the way into your collet, completely right in against it where it's touching. Take a Sharpie, spin the tube, make a first mark. Now this is going to be exactly on the front side of your stuffing tube support, the wooden piece in your hull. That's that mark right there. That much is sticking into the collet. We are going to eliminate that later, but we're going to leave it there for now because we're just using it for perfect alignment. Take your Sharpie, spin the tube again, make another mark where it exits the bottom of your hull. Between these 2 marks is the distance that it sits in the stuffing box. We're going to come 3 inches back from here, and we're going to heat this area. And that's annealing it. Now annealing it is essentially softening this brass tube by using a propane torch to get it blood red, let it cool naturally, and then it softens it and makes it easier to bend. It's not a hard procedure to do. Get yourself a propane torch, Exercise caution when using, like anything. It is open flame, especially if you're using it in your house or wherever you might be using it. I'm just going to use an old oven mitt in order to not burn myself. Be careful doing this. Once you see that tube essentially get blood red, you know you have the annealing procedure done, the softening. This is the last pass I'm doing, guys. Now, we're simply going to position our tube where it doesn't burn anything, and we're going to let it cool naturally. Do not quench it. Leave it to be. Let it cool on its own. And that's the annealing process for brass in an RC boat. Okay, guys, flip the boat over. Slid the stuffing tube up through the stuffing box in the hull. Before I do bend it, I'm just going to come back at least 15 inches. And I'm going to mark it with my Sharpie. And I'm going to use my tube cutter. And I'm going to take 15 inches off of it, just to make it easier to work with. And that's going to be out past the back of the strut. I'm going to have to cut it again. That's no big deal. Like I've said so many times before, it's easier to take it off than to put it back on. And I'm merely going to use a simple tube cutter to do it. An old school plumbing tool. So once I get it trimmed, I'll jump back and we'll put a cable up through it and we'll bend it. Okay guys, in the manual, they're asking you to take your strut blade and position it a ½ inch down from the bottom of the hull. Now I done this by the center line of the blade right here. I never done it to the bottom edge, I done it to the center line. Now to get the bend the way I want it, I had to slide the strut off for a second. I have my drive shaft slid up through it, right into the collet, because I don't want to kink the tube. The annealed part is cooled, can touch it by hand no problem. We should be about a ½ inch right here. So I'd like to get a nice gradual bend, because the gradualer that you get your bend, the less resistance you have. You want to get your cable spinning as freely as possible. We have this softened here right now, but the stuffing box isn't softened. So I'm just gently going to push down on it. I'm not going to force anything hard. I'm not going to hurt anything. I'm going to use my fingers and my hands just as a gentle bending tool, bending aid. I'm going to keep a decent alignment. And I'm going to make sure that I get this done in one shot. Now, that just took a nice, simple, gradual bend. It never took a lot of force. I left the cable up through it so I wouldn't kink it. If you've done any of this work either but sensibly, your woodworking and your construction of your boat, you're going to find that this tube, your skeg, your stuffing box, your strut, you're going to find it all lines up with this seam right down the middle of your boat. That's a funny thing to me how all that lined up. It's just a little bit funny. Now guys, I'm going to just final do this and make it perfect. But I just wanted you to see the basic bending of the stuffing tube. I wanted you to see the annealing process. I wanted you to notice that that's in there really gradual. I think a 3 or 4 horsepower engine might be able to spin it. And if you take your time, you can get your stuffing tube in your boat perfectly. I'm probably going to massage this bend a little bit extra. Just take my time and do it by hand. But that's the basic procedure on how you get it done. Okay guys, after a little bit of hand massaging, that's the way our stuffing tube is going to sit in our boat. Now, you want to slide the cable in now, so you guys can see for yourself. What you call it. No big resistance. Spin super freely, leaving the cable up through the tube while bending it. Avoids any kinking. We have a nice gradual bend. We're at a 1/2 inch right here from the bottom of our hull to the center line of our strut right here. We still have adjustment up and down, no problem. The distance of our strut and its movement, if we want to do any adjustments after we get the boat in the water. So I hope today's episode explained to you guys well how I got the stuffing box in the boat, first off, and then how I got the stuffing tube annealed, bent, and in the hull like you see. I was going to try and do the drive cable in this episode too, but I've decided not to. I'm going to save it and we'll do it in another episode. I do have a couple wooden fixture jigs built and made, which I've used for bending stuffing tubes before. They are merely 3/4 pine with a groove cut down through them. This one's known as a French curve. This one's just a straight curve. If you want to make up something like that for yourself, use it as a fixture to bend your tube against, go ahead and do so. It wasn't really necessary with the gradual bend in this boat, but this is an alternative way of bending it and doing it. Can't thank you enough for watching the channel, guys. Truly appreciate your channel support. I want you all to take care of yourselves out there, and I want you to have yourself a really good day. I'll catch you in the next episode. Thanks for watching, everyone. Feel free to like and subscribe. Take care and stay safe.